I reckon the three most likely reasons you're avoiding writing your wedding speech are that 1, you're imagining it's going to be really hard. 2, you're worried about being judged or criticised. And or 3, you just don't know where to start and are overwhelmed. Am I getting warm? Beth from Authentically Funny Speeches has heard it all though. And both Beth and I don't want you to feel like you have to go this alone or that you can't ask for help. And she is actually the very first Unbridely modern wedding planning podcast guest that I've invited back for a second time. I mean, so far, because her first episode, number 34, How to Give an Amazing Wedding Speech, Even If You're Really Nervous, receives a huge amount of downloads and you love her advice. I'll also put the link to that episode in the show notes. And so with her years and years of experience, she has really clear explanations and sensitivity to the complexities of family and friend relationships. And you know what I mean. Your life wouldn't be worth living if you didn't mention a certain person in your speech. You know who that is. So Beth will set you on the right track and make you and your new husband, wife, or spouse seem like the most generous, warm, and remarkable newlyweds ever. In this episode, Beth will teach you what makes a great speech, including the order you want to thank people in, how long it should go for, and the incredible benefits of going last, plus a few comedic tools for when you want to get the laughs, and what to do if one or both of you are introverts. And I think you're going to be really surprised by Beth's solution to that. And make sure you listen to the end, because if that's not enough gold for you, Beth breaks down her 6-part wedding speech framework for you so you don't skip a thing and end up looking like a complete legend at the end of it. And if you're still freaking out about writing the speech for your wedding, Beth can even hold your hand through the process with fill-in-the-blank templates, with speech curation services, so you write it, but she helps make it better, and done-for-you wedding speech writing too. So you can just head on over to authenticallyfunnyspeeches.com and use the code Unbridely, and you'll get 10% off. I'll put the link in the show notes for that too. Seriously, Beth is going to save you hours of trawling Google looking for the answers for your wedding speech. So listen up, gorgeous. Let's get stuck into it. Unbridely is a community of pro-wedding vendors who believe in freedom and integrity in weddings, giving you options, solutions, tips and tricks to create the experience and memories that you and your fiancé really want and deserve. Because we believe that weddings are a team sport. With how-tos, stories and interviews with recently married couples, we find out what went right and what they'd change if they could go back and do it all over again. I'm Camille, and welcome to the Unbridely podcast. Hi, Beth. It's so great to catch up with you again. How the hell have you been?
I'm good, Camille. It's great to talk to you. I'm here in, cold and rainy London, as you can tell from my accent immediately. Definitely South London, not South Philly. No, it is South Philadelphia. But I live in London. I moved here from Los Angeles. So my blood is thin. But I'm getting a lot less warmth, but I'm getting a lot more culture.
Oh, nice, nice. So for those of you who didn't catch Beth's first episode on the Unbridely podcast back in April, you should stop this right now, go back, have a listen. Episode 34, How to Give an Amazing Wedding Speech Even If You're Really Nervous. But for those who did listen to that episode, what everyone wants to know, Beth, is how's your UK driving experience these days?
Well, yeah, in the previous one, I was about to take my test. Should I spoil it for everyone?
Yeah, go.
I did pass my test. Well, I passed my second test. It took a couple of tries in the first test, even though I drove for 30 years in the U.S. With no problem. I've moved to the UK, where for me, everything's on the other side of the street, which is very distressing for my brain. And in my first test, again, 30 years driving, I drove into a curb at speed,
Oh, oh God.
The instructor has you pull over to the left every so often just to see if you can do it and line it up. And I think it's usually for 17-year-olds who might not have a lot of experience doing it. And I don't know. I just decided to drive right into it and had a long, awkward pause where I then had to say, I didn't feel anything. Did you? And the instructor laughed and then he failed me.
Tell us, give us the brief version, your background, a little bit about what you used to do and what you do now.
Sure. I am a comedy writer by trade. I lived and worked between Los Angeles and New York for almost 30 years. I wrote on Letterman, Tonight Show with Jay Leno. I wrote for Ellen for a few years. I've written for all the top comedians. I did stand-up for a long time. I also write for a lot of award shows. I've written for the Oscars twice, the Screen Actors Guild Awards 3 times, writing all the connective tissue and making or attempting to make the celebrities doing the presentations amusing. But that's fun because it's sort of Helen Mirren needs something great, or Tom Hanks, and you get to channel their voice. So my weird little superpower is being funny in someone else's voice. And because I also did stand up for a long time, I have a bit of a performance background, and I sort of fell into ghostwriting wedding speeches for people because I can be funny in someone else's voice. And I love the mix for wedding speeches of funny and sentimental, because humor is a great way to release tension. And when people are giving a speech like that, they're building and building this tension, not bad tension, but it's emotional. You're talking about someone you love. It's a way to balance that. So it's not just really saccharine sweet. And also so that you're just not a flood of tears. You can sort of get emotional, and then release a little bit of that tension for everybody's sake, yourself included. And I've built that into a business because I just fell in love with it. So I still do the TV writing. But now I also have a business called Authentically Funny Speeches. It's been, about 6 years now. And I have a YouTube channel with lots of free tips and tricks, all kinds of stuff like that. And then if people need help, I offer fill-in-the-blank templates. I do one-to-one sessions with people, speech audits or speech reviews. So you write the speech and then we sort of punch it up together. And I do I write it for you, speech writing, if you don't have the time or the bandwidth, or you just don't know where to start.
So good, Beth. So good. I mean, what you're talking about really is, the difference between having an actor stand up on stage to present an award and wants to get a quick laugh to, lighten the moment a bit. But at weddings, it's high stakes. Everyone there is going to know you. And they're going to hold this over you for a long, long time. At least that's what people are thinking when they're saying the speech. So first of all, can we start with just what makes a great speech?
Well, I think what makes a great speech is when I talk about comedy, because I talk about humor in a broader sense now, it's always content first. Humor is seasoning, not the main ingredient. So whether it's any kind of speech, a business speech or even a best man speech, where there's an expectation that it's going to be funny, you still need to tick the content boxes first. So to me, what makes a great speech is that you've ticked the boxes. And in a wedding speech, I divide it up into 6 sections, and then a toast, an actual, would you please raise your glasses, toast. And it's a way, because you're using the momentum of everything that came before it. You're building the momentum and building the momentum. And then that's your big dismount. That's your big, when you watch people doing gymnastics,
Yeah.
They don't just kind of build it and then go, yeah, I'm done. I mean, they build it. And then there's one crazy thing at the end. Or when you're watching fireworks, you go, oh, it must be ending because here's the big thing. It gives it a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you've taken people on this journey, and you give them a chance to do their part, which is to hold up their glass and shout along with you, or to just express something as a room, which is a wonderful feeling.
I feel like, I'll just press stop now, Beth. Thank you, everyone. Thank you and good night. We're done. We're done. Okay, we're going to try and jam all that in. So as well as all that amazing content, how can, because we really wanted to focus with this episode, Beth, on the newlyweds, this couple who have just gotten married, because they're probably the only ones out of all the people who could potentially have speeches who really just can't get away with it. They've got to say something, and whether it's one of them or both of them. So how can the newlyweds be better, be funnier, be more likable when it's their own speech?
Well, do give a speech, because a lot of people don't want to, but it's nice to, even if you've just, it's a couple of sentences, it's just a really nice moment. To me, I feel like it's usually a good idea for the couple to go last. There's no rights and wrongs. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it gives other people an opportunity to talk about you, so that when they've finished and you stand up, you can acknowledge that. You can thank people. You can refer back to something as a joke. Oh, thanks for telling that story, Dad. I mean, it gives you some comedic opportunities as well. And think about how you'll feel going up to thank people. You're glad they're there, but now you've just heard how they feel about you. And they've talked about those moments that stood out to them. Because, did you ever have a friend say, remember that time? Oh, I didn't, but it has stuck with them. So if you go last, you give them not only the chance to sort of fill you up with that before you go, but you also, it's gracious, because if you go up and you talk about particular moments, then you also don't want anyone who's about to give a speech going, can't do that now, can't do that now, can't do that now. Because then they're the jerk if they tell the stuff, well, I guess I'm not going to tell the washcloth story, whatever it is. So I would say generally try to go last. It's just the gracious thing to do. The speeches, make sure they're balanced. I mean, you want to, and in balanced, I mean, thank the guests for coming, thank the people who are important to you. Try to think about an order for those thanks. That seems like it has a little bit of a build to it. I've read first drafts of people's speeches, because I'll also, I'll help people with their draft where, they're sort of giving the wedding planner a lot more love than they're giving mom and dad. So, or a sibling or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, but just think about how some of those things can come across to people listening. And these are things that, when you sit down to write something, just write, just vomit it all onto the page. Don't worry about these things when you're writing them. Just get your thoughts on paper. It can be a big mess. It doesn't matter. Get it out of your head, get it on paper. And then once you have that, then start moving things around and think about where priorities should be. So don't let anything that I'm saying inhibit, overwhelm you now. So have a good order to thanking people, right?
And so can I ask, Beth, the order of thanks? So do you put the most important people, let's say mum and dad for argument's sake, do you put them first, or do you build up to mum and dad and then go, and finally, but of course, by no means least? Like, what order would you put them in? If you wanted to thank the wedding planner plus your parents, which order does it go in?
Well, that's a great question. So I usually go I would go sort of broad to specific. So first, you're going to thank everyone for coming. And maybe if there are people who you want to call out because they've made the longer trip, or you've got people coming internationally or spending hours. I mean, you want to thank everyone for coming, but if people have really invested not just time, but money, you want to thank them. But first, you're thanking everyone as a group. Then you thank people a little bit more specifically for attending. Thank the people who helped it come together, and a pecking order of it coming together. I mean, are there members of the wedding party that helped you? Your maid of honor, your best man. Give them maybe each a little moment. Thanks, Jane, for helping me, and thank you for helping me narrow it down from 142 dresses to 140, something like that. But give them, maybe one little detail. Specificity is great for comedy. One little true detail that's just kind of funny. Once you've thanked the wedding party, then if the person who's planned your wedding is just absolutely amazing, then you can thank them. If there's someone that you've just kind of worked with, you might not need to. That's really up to you. Sometimes it's more of just a business arrangement, but sometimes someone's really there holding your hand all the way. And then, yeah, parents or siblings, people who are close to you. Usually parents are kind of at the top of that pecking order. And then, would you all please raise your glass to my wife? And then everyone raises it. And then everyone has that opportunity to say to Amanda, to Steve. And it's just a really clear closing to your remarks. Because sometimes people don't think that through and you end up with, all right, well, thanks. just sort of, it just ends. And it's just a lot of lead up, and then, and then just a long pause where everyone's, you get that one person who sort of realizes, oh, I must help them. And then they, tries to lead the applause.
It's so incredibly awkward. The number of times I hear, that's all I've got, the end.
Yes.
Which can be funny in its own right, strangely enough. It's very weird. But I really love how you were saying, Beth, that being last, so, if we're the couple who just got married, being last gives you the opportunity to be extra gracious if you've actually listened, because then you can, go back to what they were saying, what they were referring to, and basically affirm everything that they just said, which makes you look like really warm, really generous. Yeah, that's great.
Well, exactly. And if you've set that order for the other speakers, then maybe that can be your order of who you thank. You can kind of go down the list and you can have your own, you already are planning what you're going to thank them for. But, I just want to thank my parents for this and this. And I want to thank Dad for mentioning in public that time when I was 2 and I told him I had a present for him and I reached into my diaper. You can sort of have all the sincere stuff and tack on anything that seems relevant.
Yeah. Because then it all seems, even though you haven't sat there with all the people who are doing speeches to find out exactly what they're saying, it sounds like you're all quite cohesive if you can just refer a little bit to what all of your other speech givers have said.
Yeah, and you don't need to refer specifically, but if it's the best man has given a speech and just eviscerated you in a nice way, in a friendly way, but you can say, well, you can also, understatement is a great tool for comedy. Well, thanks for those wonderful words, John. I love you too. You don't have to refer back to something specific that he said. You could just say it and people will know what you mean.
That's brilliant. Okay, so we're being warmer, better, funnier. We're more likable because we've sort of referred back to some other stuff or not, as you said. So what advice can you give to this poor couple who just got married where one or both of them are introverts? How do they prepare for this, what I can only guess is a completely terrifying moment for them?
Well, set yourself up for success. Usually in couples, there's one person who could do without public speaking. They really don't like it. And there's another person who you have to wrestle the microphone from. Someone else really likes it. So if you've got, to any degree, a situation like that, divide the speech like that. So I see people getting up and one person does all the talking and the other person just stands there, which can look a little strange because if 2 people are standing, you expect at some point the other person to say something. And it also can be a little weird if, the guy is speaking and the woman is just standing silently next to him, even if you know the couple. But, as a woman, you kind of don't want to send the message of, I just stand here 6 inches behind him.
This is my life now.
Yeah, he will speak for me, even because it's not what you mean. You could be a full partnership. It just kind of visually sends that message. So all you have to do is maybe just give the person who's less comfortable speaking just give them a little bit of the business of the speech. Give them the thanks. And it sounds counterintuitive to have them start the speech because that sounds like the scarier part. But what it does is give them the thank you all so much for coming. We so happy to look out and we see so many people from so many different parts of our lives. And thank you for coming all the way here to, if you're in the middle of nowhere, mention that. I know it's not easy to get to blank, but you give the person who's a little bit more of an introvert, you give them that, and there's just a few sentences. Then they've spoken, and there's no longer this expectation of, is that person ever going to say anything? Is this just a ventriloquist act? You give them that moment, and then that person can just stand there and listen. Then they're not waiting. Oh God, it's almost my part. It's almost my part. Oh no. Okay, I'm going to have to do it. Their part's done. They can hang out and just enjoy the show. And you don't need to have a big awkward handover. It can just be sort of, before so-and-so speaks, I just wanted to say from both of us, thank you so much. So you can even just put a wording in that implies this is just going to be a quick thing for me. And then we all know Dave doesn't pass on an opportunity to say a few words. But before he does, I just wanted to say, thank you so much. I really, and you do that and then you go, okay, it's your turn. Now, knock yourself out or whatever it is, but do it with affection. Make it part of the story. You don't have to hide the fact you're nervous. You don't have to hide the fact that one of you enjoys it and one of you doesn't. Make that part of it. This is the best crowd you're ever going to be in front of. Everyone there loves you. It's your wedding. You wouldn't have invited them if you didn't think they liked you. I mean, I know there's always a few people on the guest list that are just there out of obligation, but for the most part,
it's always one.
But it's a friendly crowd. This isn't a business presentation. You're not trying to change minds. This is the friendliest crowd. I mean, they just couldn't think more of you, and they want you to succeed. So any nerves you have for public speaking, you can be honest. You're among friends, and friends who, they're at your wedding. They want you to succeed in life, and they want you to succeed in that moment. So if you get nervous, they're going to applaud. If you start to well up, they're going to cheer for you. They're with you.
Such a brilliant reminder, actually, Beth. You're not up in front of, a kill squad. You're up in front of these people who love and adore you, who you invited to be there. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's just so good to remind yourself of that. And then that other tip of actually going first, if you're the one who's maybe the most nervous about it, because number one, it's Band-Aid off for you. You've ripped the Band-Aid off, you've said your bit, you've set up your spouse, and then, you sit back with a glass of champagne, have a giggle as well. But everyone else can also, all of your friends and family, they know that you're not going to be loving saying anything. So they'll be pleasantly surprised when you go first and then relieved, and then they can sit back and enjoy the show. I love that.
You're removing the potential distraction from their minds, which is, oh, is she going to, is he going to? You're making it more comfortable for your audience. So it serves a lot of purposes.
Yeah, that's so good. I mean, it's so simple, but it's counterintuitive. I would imagine that a lot of couples would do that back to front. If you had a sweary, chocolate-addicted, wine-sipping fairy godmother who could help you with your wedding planning, what would you wish for? Perhaps no more waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, wondering what you've forgotten, or fretting about your RSVPs. Maybe no more spreadsheets or post-it notes or endless to-do lists. Well, I can help you with all of that. Websites is an Australian wedding website builder, guest management software, and wedding project planner all in one. Why is this such a game changer for you? Well, imagine everything to do with your wedding being in one place, updated in real time in the cloud, shareable to anyone else that's helping you, password protected for your guests, with notifications to tell you what needs to be done next and by when. It's amazing, right? I love how easy Websites is to set up and use, and how there are no ads on the platform yelling at you to spend more money on your wedding. To get started on your very own free wedding website, just head to wedsites.com. That's WEDSITES.com, and enter the code UNbridelyPod, that's Unbridely POD, to get 10% off their paid planning tools. The link is in the show notes. Okay, so we know what we're saying. We know how to be better, funnier, more likeable, warmer. The introverts are going to go first. If you're a talker, we're going to try and wrestle the mic off you for a second. So then there's a little bit of equality there. That's really nice. What about the timing of wedding speeches? Have you got any tips around the timing?
I do. When you're putting your speech together, I always recommend aiming for about 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be exactly 5 minutes, but if you aim for 5 minutes, you have a clear target. 5 minutes is a lot of time. It doesn't sound like it. It's a lot of time. You can say everything you want to say and say it well in 5 minutes. Speaking of timing, if you're planning your own wedding and you're asking people to speak, say, and maybe something 3 to 5 minutes. They may make it very short. They may make it a little bit longer. But I have so many clients who come to me and I say, is there any kind of time limit? Because also some people, it's just, they've got a whole, timetable. There's 47 people speaking. You get exactly this much time. So I always check to see if there's a particular issue. But so many clients tell me that, no, they didn't really say. Well, that's when you're going to get 5 12-minute speeches. And it's just, that is grueling for an audience.
Yeah.
That's a hostage situation.
It is.
Right? It's too much of a good even if it's great, it's too much of a good thing. You don't need 3 bowls of ice cream.
Yeah, but what are the chances of it being great, Beth? I mean, my God.
Well, there's that.
It's a hostage situation for everyone. There's 100 people wanting to pull their eyelashes out with pliers,
There's also 100 people who've been drinking champagne, beer, all kinds of things. So their bladders are so big and their attention span is only so long. And plus, you're probably not the only one speaking. So set everyone up for success. And when you ask people to speak, tell them, 3 to 5 minutes. And then that way, if they're on either side of it, they're in good shape. For your own speech, aim for about 5 minutes. People speak at about 150 words a minute. So that gets you to about 750 words. In any program that you use, there's a word count thing. So you have a sense of that. But it's about a page and a half, page and a quarter, if it's sort of just double spaced. It'll give you a sense of about how long it is.
Thank you for saying as well that, the time, literally the number of minutes and the number of words, because when it comes down to my couples like writing their vows, I'm looking at word count rather than minutes. But then again, their vows shouldn't be going for, an extended period of time.
Yeah, you don't want someone to have just an absolute laundry list of vows.
Yeah.
But like everything, even your thanks, your speech, everything, it's quality over quantity. So if you don't have a lot to say, you're the couple and neither of you are big speakers, you don't have to say a lot. You could 40 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute. You can keep it really short. Just thank people for coming and, tell them how much their presence on that day means to you. Because it wouldn't be the same without them. And you appreciate the effort. And if you really both hate public speaking like poison, you can say, we're going to do all of this. We'll be stopping by every table to tell you this in person. But we just wanted to say to you as a group, thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Dad, Paul, Amanda, for your amazing speeches. We love you all. Done.
You're right. If it causes you that much anxiety, keep it simple. Keep it simple. So you gave us, a bit of a breakdown, Beth, like right at the start about the content. Can you just remind us, like those different sections that you talked about? Was there 6? I can almost hear my listener going, yes, but what the fuck am I saying? What is going in there? So if we're talking about the couple who just got married, these lovely newlyweds, we've recognized they're going to go last. They're going to be this fabulous, gracious, hosts. what should they say? What is the content and the order that they should be putting the stuffing of their speech in? What's the content there? What's the meat?
Yeah, absolutely. And people just go, well, that's great, but what picture do you want me to paint? So it's really straightforward. For all the other sorts of speeches, I break things down into 6 parts. For the couple, it's also 6 parts as just a nice, good guideline, but it's slightly different than it is to the 6 parts for everybody else because you have a different goal.
Go.
So first you have your thanks and acknowledgements. You want to thank everyone for coming. You want to acknowledge anyone who's just been a real standout in the preparation for the wedding. And then you want to give love to the people who you are closest to. Could be siblings, could be the people in the wedding party, the maid of honor, the best man, whoever it is who's really helped you for the day or prepare for that specific event. And also the people who are most special to you in life. In sort of order of importance, you kind of often want to end that section with your parents, if that's the kind of relationship you have with them. That can be good. And when you thank them, you can, truth is funny. So you're thanking them for being great people, but truth is funny and the specifics of that truth are hilarious. So thank them for being great parents and being patient with you and teaching you this and that, but also thank them for hanging in with you when you were a giant pain in the ass between 12 and 24, or thank them for, letting you live in the house until you were 26. I mean, is there something that you genuinely want to thank them for, for forgiving you for totaling the car when you were 17, whatever it is, but be honest, be truthful, be specific, and have fun with it. And then, so once you've got all the thanks, then pivot. And I would spend the remaining part of the speech talking about your new spouse and talk about why this person is the person. And when you're telling stories, sometimes a good guideline can be firsts and worsts. If you're looking for truthful humor, firsts and worsts are great. The first time you met that person, what did you think? Maybe your first thought when you met that person and it was a Tinder date, your first thought was, meh. But then you started talking to them and you realized this or that or the other thing. When did you first realize that this person was the person? And those things can come at ridiculous moments. The time I knew my wife was someone special, a couple of weeks after we'd met because she had a trip to Brazil planned. And she said, well, you want to come with me? Because she was staying with friends. I went, I mean, literally, we'd been dating about 2.5 weeks. And I went, yeah, sure.
Wow.
And our flight, because of a snowstorm in New York, was delayed about 24 hours. So it was a lot of time. And then they changed the destination. We were supposed to fly to Rio, and we ended up in Sao Paulo, and then had to explain to the people in Sao Paulo that somehow that we deserved a flight from Sao Paulo to Rio with no documentation, no paperwork. Just people had put us on a plane and said, when you get there, they'll take care of it. And it was insane. And we were laughing the whole time. And I'd never had that experience. I mean, so talk about those sorts of moments when you knew, this is someone. Also, worsts are funny. What went wrong? Did your first vacation go terribly wrong? Did you go away on a romantic weekend and get food poisoning? But then you realized, but he held my hair and I knew, that this was someone.
And that's when I knew. Oh.
But truth is funny. And sometimes those are the moments when someone's really come through for you. So first and worsts. And then if you're looking for a way to pivot to the ending, sometimes a fun device that you can use is just throw in a few extra vows. I know we exchanged our vows in the ceremony, but there are a few other promises I want to make you. And you can make a few real promises because you've got the ceremony and usually it's the classics, love, honor, cherish. Maybe you've written your own vows, but you can add a few more that are really deeply personal to you. I promise to always listen. I promise to look at you and always see you. I promise to talk even when I don't want to. I'm not much of a talker naturally. I mean, I am here, but when it comes to talking about my feelings, I didn't grow up in that environment. But I would have genuinely said, I promised, even when I feel like I don't want to try. And then you can also pepper in things that are just very specific. I promised to get ready in less than 2.5 hours. I promised to, always make the pancakes that you like on Sunday mornings. You don't have to have a million of them, but if you have 4 or 5, make sure you have a couple of funny ones that are there. And when I say funny, again, truthful, self-aware,
meaningful. Yeah.
Meaningful, but truth is funny. Find examples that are true. I promise not to ask if you're asleep out loud and wake you up, which is something that happens in our house.
Guilty.
Are you asleep? Well, I was, yeah. And it sounds silly, but it's universal, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, it's very specific to what happens between myself and my partner. And immediately you said, yep, nope, been there. So things like that, those extra vowels, and it's just a fun way to really end it with the focus on you and the two of you as a couple. And then have a nice raise your glass literal toast. Now, would you all please raise your glass in a toast to my, and if you're using husband or wife, maybe it's the first time you've said that ever, the first time you've referred to this person using one of those words. If that feels weird to you or weird and wonderful to you, acknowledge that. Oh, wow, I like the way that sounds. Well, yes, would you all please raise a glass to my, beautiful, wonderful, whatever, patient husband, wife. And then literally you have that moment where you bring it home and people pick up their glass and you say that person's name, your partner's name, and everyone repeats it. And it's a real moment. And it's a moment that ends the speech. It's a great dismount. It's also a visual moment. So your photographer has a moment to grab that. And then you have everyone reaching up and you have those expressions on people's faces. That's just kind of pure happiness and joy. And it's active. It's a great photo to have too.
That was brilliant, Beth. That was really, really cool. Okay. You've covered absolutely everything. Thank you so much for your insight, for your expertise. You said at the start that sometimes you're a ghostwriter for people of wedding speeches. Sometimes you're a curator, I'm guessing, going through what they've already written going, no. Yeah, you offer lots of different services across wedding speeches. And so if someone is interested in getting your help, where can people find you?
Yeah, I like curator. I love that term. They can find me at authenticallyfunnyspeeches.com, and I've got everything from fill-in-the-blank templates, and those are templates that will give you all that connective tissue and structure, and then just story prompts for things that go there. So you have to do a little work, but it's going to get you to your first draft really quickly. Or if you've written something and you want my feedback on it, I've got services where I'll just send you feedback within 24 hours. We can jump on a Zoom or I can write it for you. And anyone, if you use the code Unbridely, you'll get 10% off.
It's too cool. Nice one, Beth. Nice. So lovely to chat with you again. And look, take care of the UK. Try to stick to the left and hopefully see you again in the future.
I would love to. Thanks for having me.
That about wraps it up for this episode of the Unbridely podcast. For the links and resources we mentioned, please head to the show notes. And if you love the show, please review and subscribe on the podcast platform you're on now so you don't miss out on a single episode. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, weddings are a team sport. Catch you soon.